My name is Sriram, and tonight I'm going to take you through an excerpt of Mysore, a celebrated travelogue of Karnataka, then known as the State of Mysore, written by R.K. Narayan. His writings on Sringeri brought back vivid memories of my childhood when I used to visit there with my parents. So lie down comfortably, gently close your eyes, and let me take you on a pilgrimage to the temple town of Sringeri. Sringeri. About 12 centuries ago, Shankaracharya was born at Kaladi, of parents who had been childless for long. They had been praying night and day for an issue. In answer to their prayer, Shiva appeared in the guise of an old man in a dream and asked, "Do you want numerous children who live 100 years, but who are dullards and evildoers? Or only one son who is exceptionally gifted, but who will live with you for only a short time?" The mother rejected mere quantity. Shankaracharya was born with only 16 years as his allotted span of life. In his 5th year, he learnt the Gayatri and underwent spiritual discipline. In his 8th year, he mastered all the Shastras, Puranas, Veda, Vedanta, and Sutras. And a little later, he renounced the world and donned the ochre robe. The rest of his life is the record of a great teacher. Through his writings, debates, and talks, he spread far and wide his Advaita philosophy, a doctrine which says that all that exists is a particle of a great soul and merges in the end in that soul. His was the task of ending the nightmare of separateness, says one of his commentators. After traveling extensively, he came to Sringeri. Sringeri had already been sanctified by the presence of great sages like Vasishta, Vishwamitra, Vibhandaka, Kashyapa, and others who had their ashrams in its forests and performed tapas. A look at this place will make us understand why it was so favored. A place surrounded with green hilltops and immense forests, and watered by river Tunga, which is considered to be more sacred than any other river in the world. If Ganga springs from Vishnu's feet, Tunga springs from his face, and the gods are said to bathe in it. Before making up his mind to settle here, Shankara stood on the right bank of the river and looked about. This spot is now marked by a little shrine. He had in his hand the golden image of Sharada or Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge and culture, for whom he was going to build a temple which was going to be the central powerhouse, so to speak, of his philosophy and the institution which was born of it. At his feet, Tunga flowed. Its water turned silvery by the rays of the midday sun. As he stood observing the surroundings, Shankara beheld a sight on the opposite bank which thrilled him and made him realize that he had come to the end of his journey. A cobra spread its hood and held it like an umbrella over a frog, protecting it from the heat of the sun. "This is the place," Shankara said on seeing it. "Here is harmony, an absence of hatred even among creatures which are natural enemies." Even today on the river step, a tiny niche made of a couple of stones marks the spot where this phenomenon was seen. The niche is filled with mud and sand, but a slight excavation with the fingers revealed the cobra and the frog carved in a stone. Shankara crossed the river. This village was henceforth to be of vital importance to humanity. Its significance to last beyond the reckoning of time. Hence, he first proceeded to build 4 guardian temples in the surrounding hillocks, which were to protect the place from all possible dangers, diseases, and evils. On the eastern hillock, he built a temple for Kala Bhairava. On the western hillock, for Anjaneya. On the southern hillock, for Durgi, and on the northern, for Kali. Even today, worship is being performed thrice a day in these temples. The people of Sringeri have strong faith in the protection that these guardians afford. I had a surprising instance of it from the person who was acting as my guide and who was a vaccinator. During our walk, he casually mentioned that there were a few cases of typhoid in the town. When I asked him what measures were being taken to combat it, he said, "We are quite confident that none of these cases will turn fatal. My daughter too had an attack of it and a relapse, and its only effect has been loss of hair. As long as we have these," he pointed at the temples on the hillocks, "we have nothing to fear. In the summer we have a few cases of smallpox too, but there is nothing to worry or fear. This place is protected. If any of the case turns fatal, it will be due to extraordinary karma, and nothing can be done about it." I admired his grand faith. All the same, I could not help pressing upon him the need for giving widespread anti-typhoid injections. He at once made a note of it. Though this incident is trivial, it indicated to me a certain resilience and breadth of mind and an absence of bigotry which seemed to me the very essence of the culture Shankara fostered. My vaccinator friend could have very well denounced my suggestion as mere human vanity and lectured to me on the power of faith. But he did not do it, and I believe could not do it. There is a repose and tranquility in the air. The river flows softly. Strolling along its edge, I notice a group of young men with an elderly companion in their midst. They are all bathing in the river, washing their clothes, and are at the same time listening to the lecture their elderly companion is giving them and answering the questions he is putting to them. When they got up to go, muttering their lessons, I followed them through the narrow passage between the consecrated tombs of ancient saints behind Vidyashankara temple. I follow them into a large hall where groups of students are squatting in shady corners, quietly chanting their lessons and memorizing. A few elderly persons, wrapped in shawls, move about on noiseless footsteps, absorbed in their own discussion. The place has a monastic quietness. In the upper story, there is a library containing over 4,000 manuscripts and books, neatly classified, labeled, and arranged in glass shelves. In an adjoining room, some persons are sitting before huge leaps of manuscripts and books. They're at their task of selecting, rejecting, and classifying the vast store of manuscripts and books that has accumulated in the mud from time immemorial. They have been at this task for 5 years and are likely to go on for a couple of years more. In the central courtyard, there is a shrine, fittingly enough, of Shankaracharya. For this is a college run by the mutt, providing a course of studies which extend over 10 years. And here, young men are trained for a religious life. It has about 80 pupils, with 8 or 10 masters, each one an authority in some branch of Sanskrit learning. 40 of the pupils are being looked after by the mutt itself. Once a year, the pupils are examined and the past candidates are led by their masters across the river to the presence of the chief guru, the apostolic head who lives in a house on the opposite bank of the river. He is a man of deep learning and austerity, whose hours are occupied with meditation, prayer, worship, and studies. He tests the boys himself, and to those who pass the test, he distributes clothes and money gifts. There is a sannyasi sweeping the temple of Anjaneya and decorating the image with flowers, completely absorbed in his work and completely indifferent to those passing him. To my inquiry, my guide answers, he is one of the 4 or 5 sannyasis here. He speaks to no one. He came here some years ago and has been here since. We don't know where he has come from. He spends most of his time in yoga. Occasionally when he is free, he sweeps the temples. Since he's here, he's our guest. I observe 2 sannyasis sitting on the river step with closed eyes. Their purpose is also unknown. One of them, it was vaguely understood, came all the way from some place in northern India in order to discuss certain questions with the chief guru and have certain doubts cleared. After coming, he never met the guru, but just stayed on, dividing his time between meditation and work. He voluntarily teaches certain subjects in the university. There is another sannyasi here as a pupil in the college. No one questions who they are or why they are here or how long they are going to stay, but treats them as honored guests as long as they stay. One most noticeable feature of Sringeri is in its attitude as a host to whoever visits it. The moment you're here, you are freed from the concerns of food and shelter. As soon as you get down from the bus, you are shown a room in the dharamshala or the guest house. And then your hot water is ready for your bath. And as soon as you have bathed, your food is brought to you. There is an old cook bent with age who gets up every morning at 4 o'clock and goes to bed at 11 in the night, spending his waking hours in serving the guests. I saw how deeply the spirit of hospitality had sunk in the people here when I caught the old man in a talkative mood. Before I came here, I was a clerk in Tiruchinopalli jail. Through some adverse circumstances, I became unhappy, very unhappy, and then suffered from mental derangement. I came here, sought the Guru, and begged him to permit me to wear the ochre cloth and become a sannyasi. He refused because I have a large family to support and ordered that I should live here with my family and seek peace in serving the pilgrims. And now I have done it for 40 years. He collects the tips given to him, puts them by, and spends it twice a year in feeding the poor. Every day, nearly 200 persons are being fed by the mutt, excluding the pupils in the university, the sannyasis, and others. This hospitality is not confined to human beings. In the niches of the temple towers, there are thousands of pigeons living and breeding. From the stores of the mutt, 4 seers of rice are scattered for the pigeons every day. They provide a grand spectacle when they sweep down for their rice at the feeding hour. In addition to this, 5 seers of rice are cooked and thrown in the river for the fish. There are numerous fish of all sizes in the river, sporting and splashing about, which come to the surface expectantly whenever any human being stands on the river step. The fish and the birds have lived and grown without knowing any fear of human beings. There are numerous temples in Sringeri, besides the chief one of Sharada. The temple of Vibhandaka in Sringeri itself, and of his son Rishyashringa, which is at Kigga, 6 miles from Sringeri, built on a high hill, are 2 of the oldest temples here. Both are of the same type, with an inner shrine in the middle, an open corridor around, and a roofed platform edging the corridor. The platform can accommodate thousands of persons at a time. It is believed that by praying at these temples, rain can be called or stopped. Vibhandaka and his son are famous sages mentioned in the early portions of Ramayana. Rishyashringa, like his father, was a man of great attainment, but he had grown up without seeing a woman. At that time, there was a severe drought in Anga. The king was told that the drought would cease if Rishyashringa could be brought to his state and married to the princess. A bevy of young women disguised as hermits was sent in order to entice the sage. They arrived, stopped at Narve, a village near Sringeri, waited for an opportunity, and appeared before the young man when his father was out of the scene. He felt such a deep interest in these strange hermits that it was not very difficult for them to decoy him. His approach to Anga brought rain. He married the princess and became the priest of King Dasharatha of Ayodhya and officiated at the great sacrifice which resulted in the birth of Rama, the hero of Ramayana. There is a carving on a pillar in the Rishyashringa temple at Kekka, in which the young sage is shown as he is being carried off happily on a palanquin made of the intertwined arms of fair women. Another important temple is Vidya Shankara's, built in about 1357 AD. It is on the left bank of Tunga, of Chalukyan style, and built on a raised terrace. Round the outer walls are intricate carvings depicting scenes from the epics and Puranas. One of the most interesting figures carved is that of Vyasa discoursing to Shankara. This perhaps illustrates the episode in Shankara's life when the sage Vyasa came to him in the guise of an old man when he was teaching a group of disciples on the banks of Ganges. Shankara was teaching a certain work of which Vyasa himself was the author. Vyasa objected to Shankara's interpretation, and Shankara would not admit the objection. A great debate ensued, which went on for 17 days, neither side giving in. At this, the others grew alarmed. Shankara's chief disciple appealed to them. O great Vyasa, you are the incarnation of Vishnu. And O my master, you are Shiva. When you both argue and debate, what is to happen to us poor mortals? How can we bear to watch this mighty conflict? And the debate stopped. Vyasa blessed Shankara for his grasp of the subject and his interpretation. And as Shankara was about to complete his 16th year in a couple of hours, Vyasa conferred on him a further span of 16 years. The temple of Sharada is the most important institution here. This is the holiest sanctuary which any human being can be privileged to enter. The center round which the life of Sringeri revolves. At the evening hour of worship, the temple is transformed with lights, music, incense, and flowers. Standing at the inner shrine, one has a feeling of elation. At this moment, the golden image of Sharada in the innermost shrine, shining in the lamplight, and the swaying flames of camphor, appears to be not a mere metal image, but a living presence, and one gets a feeling that one can go on standing here forever, looking at its tranquil and distinguished face.